Hello, I'm Ashley Walker and here's the roundup of the week's eco-news from Barometer. Landmarks in Europe and throughout the world dim their lights for Earth Hour. And people in Tokyo enjoy warm weather as the first signs of spring appear, blooming cherry blossoms. Cities across the world switched off their lights for Earth Hour, an initiative which aims to raise awareness of the effects of the human carbon footprint. It coincides with a meeting of the UN's Group of Climate Change in Japan, which highlights the threats of climate change. It's lights off to save energy and reduce the human carbon footprint. The world's most famous landmarks have switched off their lights to mark this year's Earth Hour, an event launched in 2007 to raise awareness of environmental conservation. Meanwhile, in Japan, the issue of climate change is taken away from the public eye and into the hands of the UN's Group of Climate Change. The UN panel gathered in Yokohama to present a new report highlighting the seriousness of the threats posed by climate change.
The one message that comes out very clearly is that the world has to adapt and the world has to mitigate. And the sooner we do that, the less the chances of some of the worst impacts of climate change being faced in different parts of the world.
The Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change highlighted the seriousness of the threats posed by climate change. They range from food and water shortages to the extinction of animals and plants. Activists took the issue into their own hands and called on world leaders to take their responsibility and not ignore the increasing threat of climate change.
So we are here to remind world leaders like Barack Obama, Angela Merkel, David Cameron and many others that this is the time to act, cut emissions, to fight climate change. They have ample opportunity this year and next year at important climate summits, and that is when they need to put better policies on the table to save their people and the environments we depend on from climate change.
The IPCC's report will support governments in preparing a deal which aims to cut increasing greenhouse gas emissions and shifting from fossil fuel to renewable energies. This will be the subject of a meeting scheduled for late 2015 in Paris. Other environmental issues in the news now. It is 25 years ago that the US was faced with one of the largest oil spills the country had ever seen. The Exxon Valdez supertanker, which transporting millions of gallons of crude oil, struck a reef, causing an unprecedented environmental disaster. The oil slick contaminated 1,300 miles of coastline, threatening wildlife. It was the largest disaster in the US, which was only eclipsed by the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in April 2010. Yet again, pollution levels in Beijing have reached dangerous heights. The capital recorded readings of over 400 on the Air Quality Index, when more than 300 is considered to be dangerous for humans. Many of the Chinese capital's residents took to wearing face masks when pollution levels peaked in the afternoon. In Paraguay, thousands of peasants and union members marched on the country's Congress to demand agrarian reform. They accused multinationals of hijacking the agricultural sector. In Latin America's poorest country, 80% of the land is in the hands of less than 2% of the population, which has long been a source of conflict. Paraguay is South America's third largest producer of soya, corn and sunflowers. The people of Tokyo are basking in the first sunny moments of spring. The cherry blossoms are in full bloom, making spectacular scenes in the city's parks. And it seems the Japanese capital is making the most of it.
Spring is on its way in Tokyo, and with it, beautiful cherry blossoms that the Japanese capital is famous for. They are one of the best-known symbols of Japan. Many people made the most of the sunny day and relaxed after an unseasonably cold winter in the capital.
Well, these flowers really do leave a stronger impression than others. For the Japanese, with or without the cherry blossoms, getting together and drinking is a fun thing to do, but the cherry blossoms certainly bring us together. For the Japanese, we definitely believe that the cherry blossom is a symbol of Japan.
Schools and companies in Japan begin their new year in spring, around the time when the spring blossoms are in full bloom. The light pink flowers symbolize new beginnings and fresh starts. During the cherry blossom season, hanami or cherry blossom viewing picnics take place.
With the build-up of stress from work, well, once in a while, this once-a-year chance to see the cherry blossoms and relax, it means my feelings are refreshed by this annual tradition. To acknowledge the changing of the seasons, spring, summer, fall and winter, is an important part of the culture, and that's also why I've come for the cherry blossom viewing.
Unfortunately, the beautiful flowers only last up to 10 days in Tokyo, so people are making the most of it right now.
That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.